Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ring. In the red corner tonight, we have the most damage we can possibly do in Pokemon, and in the blue corner, the most defensive we can be. Who will win? Let's find out. Yeah, we're doing more most damage possible stuff. It feels kind of like slop at this point, but it's fun to make. I hope it's fun to watch. Yeah, so hope you enjoy.
So, for context, many people in the comments of previous videos on this topic have asked questions similar to this one. That fuck-ass avatar is so ugly, bro, I swear I almost... Shit, this is the wrong comment. Oh, here it is. Given the insane damage output that we can produce, can we similarly buff up a Pokemon's defense to the point that it can survive this attack? I think it's an interesting question, so let's find out. Here's a quick recap of how we deal the most damage possible in any generation. In Gen 9, the move Last Respect increases its power by 50 every time an ally faints, up to a maximum of 5050 after 100 faints. This is our move of choice. The highest defense stat in the game is that of Regirock. If we have a Smeargle use Power Split on a Regirock, a move that sets both Pokemon's defense stats to the average of the two, then have Regirock switch out and back in, and repeat this Power Split and switch process 9 times, Smeargle will have one less than the highest defense possible in the game. Next, once Smeargle uses Power Trick, that defense stat becomes the highest attack stat possible in the game. If we give Smeargle the huge power ability, we can double its attack further, and if we make it hold a metronome after using Last Respect 5 times in a row, the damage of the 6th consecutive Last Respect will be doubled. Obviously, Smeargle also needs +6 attack, and we make it the Ghost type for stab, making it a 2x stab multiplier with Terastallization. Finally, our ally can have the ability Power Spot for a 1.3x modifier to our Last Respect's power, and it can use Helping Hand for one more 1.5x modifier. Under the right circumstances, this setup can result in upwards of 2 billion damage. Of course, in the video for the most damage possible, there's a lot more to the actual setup because we needed to prepare our defender to be as weak to the move as possible. In this video, we of course want to do the exact opposite. We want to stack as many defensive effects as we can and hopefully come up with a way to survive the attack. Because we are effectively pitting ourselves against ourselves, let's define some rules for this test. Number 1. The opposing teams cannot actively aid each other on the final turn. We know from the most damage video that if the enemy team uses Instruct, the ally of our big attacker can use a second Helping Hand, but that's a no-go for this video. There's a couple reasons this rule specifies the final turn, but it mostly just boils down to needing an extra turn to assist with certain setups for both sides. For example, it might come up that we need to pass on an ability to the opposing side temporarily while maneuvering around which Pokemon are out on the field, and this is fair game as long as it happens before the final turn. Side note, I wanted on record that I spelt maneuvering correctly on my first try while writing this script. Not relevant to the video, but I'm collecting the credit I am due for this. Number 2. Conversely, no actively hindering the other team before the attacking turn. For example, the attacking team can't remove the defender's screen before the turn, and the defending team can't use Taunt to prevent a Helping Hand. We want a clean pitting of the most damage we can do versus the most defensive we can be, with the only exception to that being that we're assuming the hit isn't going to crit, because critting by design invalidates the vast majority of defensive options the game has to offer, which would kind of trivialize this whole experiment. Number 3. The defensive team knows exactly what is coming and is therefore allowed to prepare for it by, for example, bringing our resistant Pokemon and using specific countermeasures, as long as they're not effects that disrupt the attacker's setup directly. Number 4. Obviously, damage negation is off the table. To this day, the only comments I ever get on my least damage possible video are, "Have you tried using Earthquake on a bird? This guy doesn't know about False Swipe on 1 HP, and why do you look like the medic from TF2? To answer the first 2 questions, yes, the least damage we can do is 0, but besides 0, we want to know how low we can get the damage, and can we survive it. That means no type immunities, no causing the attack to miss, and no using Protect. Finally, number 5. We want to test in a real-world scenario, so we're going to use the limitations of Generation 9. That means no triple battles and no national decks. Hello! Real quick before we get into the rest of the video, just want to say if you're enjoying it so far or you like the channel in general, consider subscribing. And if you already are, would you mind triple checking just to be sure? You'd be surprised. I'm using my real face for this, by the way, because first of all, for some reason people seem to resonate more with a real human with flesh than
a rotoscoped mess. And second of all, because I have a new mic that I can attach absolutely anything I want to. Right now it's chickens. Pretty sure I stole these from a Waterstones when I was 12. But I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I hope you're enjoying the video so far, and let's get back into it.
Alright, let's get into setting up our glorious defensive wall. As anyone who's ever tried to build a stall team will tell you, the most important stat for a defensive team is not defense or special defense, it's the HP stat. If we want a chance at surviving this, we're going to need one of the highest HP stats in the game. And while Blissey does technically hold the top spot in that regard, Chansey only has 5 less base HP and can hold an Eviolite for 1.5 times defense modifier, so the choice here is clear. You might recall that Chansey is famously tied for the lowest defense in the game along with the rest of its evolutionary line, and you'd be right, but we can fix that by using Guard Split. We do this with a Smeargle quite easily, as it itself can use Guard Split over and over, but since neither Chansey or Regirock can learn the move, we need an intermediary Pokemon, in this case Bastiodon, to do the heavy lifting for us. This involves switching in Regirock, having our Bastiodon use Guard Split on Regirock, then as Regirock switches out, have the Don use Guard Split on Chansey. We switch Regirock back in, then repeat until all 3 Pokemon's defense equals 547. So, we've now covered which Pokemon we're using, Chansey, which item it'll be holding, the Eviolite, and what its defense stat will be, a whopping 3,282 after giving it plus 6 defense. Obviously, we wanted to be at least Dark type to resist the last respects. Unfortunately, Dark is the only type in the game that resists Ghost, unless you want to start going on about inverse battles, which I don't, but someone's going to mention it in the comments, so I'm mentioning it here so you don't have to. But in lieu of another type to resist Ghost, if we make Chansey Dark and Ice type, we can get a 1.5 times multiplier to its defense by making it Snow. Chansey can't learn Reflect type, but it can learn Copycat, and if we Copycat Reflect type into a Weavile, we get our type combination set up exactly how we need it. Speaking of Snow, we obviously want to use Aurora Veil or Reflect, either of which will reduce damage by about 33%. Often when I use screens in a video, I have quite a few common comments about them, so just to do a quick frequently asked questions section, why do you look like an Eldritch avatar? This is the wrong FAQ. 1 second. Why are we not using both Reflect and Aurora Veil? Because they don't actually stack. For a period a few years ago, the Showdown Simulator inaccurately stacked the damage reduction and made some pretty funny triple screen strategies viable, but technically it never should have worked like that because it doesn't work like that in the games. Second of all, why are we reducing damage by 33% and not by half? And this is just how it works in double battles or triple battles, since it would probably just be too strong to reduce it by half in the context of VGC. Moving on, if we have an ally on the field with the ability Friend Guard, any damage directed towards our Chansey will be multiplied by 0.75. And now the last bit of work we have to do is decide on Chansey's ability. Obviously, there's the Multiscale and Shadow Shield abilities, which half damage if the user is on full health. There's also Purifying Salt, which I only just recently found out, as well as preventing all status conditions. It also, when being targeted by a Ghost type attack, reduces the attack stat of the attacker by half. Technically though, because of this +2 in the middle of the damage formula, it's slightly better to use a multi-scale effect because it will apply the halving after this +2 is applied, halving that +2 as well. Now, all of these abilities pale in effectiveness compared to one other option we have, Unaware. Unaware ignores all stat changes from an attacker, which would effectively nullify the +6 attack of our attacker. Now, this is getting into nitty-gritty rules lawyering of our terms we've set out. Is this within the letter of the law of the experiment? Maybe. Is it in the spirit of the challenge, seeing as we're actively reducing the attack stat of our attacker? Maybe not. I don't know, and at this point, I don't really care, so we're just going to do both and we're going to compare the damage afterwards. Okay, let's get set up. This does mean, unfortunately, that I'm going to have to demonstrate the loop of reviving and killing a Pokemon 100 times for our max damage last respect, which is not fun, by the way, the things I do for content. The best way I've found to do this is to swap the ability Harvest onto a Pawmot holding a Leppa Berry and use Sunny Day, then alternate between having our designated Dyer, Arboliva, use Memento, then have Pawmot use Revival Blessing to bring back the Arboliva. The Leppa Berry will restore the PP, and then Harvest in the Sun is guaranteed to restore the berry. Rinse and repeat 99 more times, and voila! 5050 base power last respects. Next step is our defense setup. First, we're going to have Chansey use Defense Curl 6 times. Now we start our elaborate 3-way guard split, and after a dozen iterations, Chansey now has Regirock's defense stat. We get Smeargle to use Reflect type, and Chansey uses Copycat to do the same to turn into a Dark Ice type. Clefable uses Skill Swap to pass Chansey unaware, and just by the way, this could be a Lugia with Multiscale instead, otherwise the setup stays exactly the same. With that, our Chansey is finished getting set up, so we can start on our attacker Smeargle. We go through the guard split rigmarole, we give it the pure power ability, and then we reflect type a Terrastalized Clefable. We set up Medicham with the power spot ability, and now the rest of the setup on both sides is time sensitive. The defender side sets up Snow, and the attacker side begins firing off Last Respect to charge up the Metronome item. Aurora Veil is put up, and the attacker team is ready to go as well now. Final turn, Smeargle Terrastalizes, Medicham uses Helping Hand, and Smeargle fires off the Last Respects. Before we see the result, just to recap, Smeargle is attacking with a 5050 base power move, multiplied by 1.3 from Power Spot and 1.5 from Helping Hand, to a total of 9847. Its attack stat is 547, multiplied by 2 from Pure Power, for a total of 1094, and keep in mind Unaware is holding back the 4 times attack increase. The move damage itself is also multiplied by 2 from Terrastalized Stab and 2 one more time from the Metronome. On the defense side, Chansey has 547 defense, multiplied by 4 from the stat changes, by 1.5 from the Eviolite, and 1.5 one more time from the Ice typing in the Snow, for a total of 4923 defense. The attack is not very effective from the Dark typing, and the damage is multiplied by 0.66 from the Aurora Veil and 0.75 from our allies' Friend Guard. So, call it in the comments. Does the Unstoppable Force beat the Immovable Object? Can our Chansey survive the massive attack? Let's find out. No, it cannot, even with Unaware. Here's the damage formula filled in if you're curious, and here's the damage ranges. As you can see, the heavy lifting that Last Respect is doing here is insane, and with Chansey at 704 HP, we're just over double, meaning that even if we managed to Dynamax Chansey in some weird National Dex format, we still wouldn't get there. Technically, in that weird, non-existent setting, if we were able to Dynamax Chansey and also use Magic Room, which feels even cheatier than Unaware here, we could turn off Metronome at the cost of turning off Eviolite, and we reach 1160 damage. Enough that the doubled health of a Kaiju Chansey could technically survive. But besides that, unfortunately our Chansey does not tank the hit. So, did you get it right? Edit your comments to let me know. Or, post a second comment. Hell, post a third comment. I'm not complaining. But really, I'm genuinely curious. I personally honestly thought it would be doable for team defense, and the fact that it's actually, relatively speaking, that close is wild to me. As always, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much to my supporters on Patreon, especially at least 8,700,000 ants, Chaos Lord Drago, Sean Colgan, AdZ the Man, as well as a real world scientist, a magic user, Avery Bunn, Eamon Crawford, Frostfox, Peter Clare Lomax, Squarka, Sparkfire, The Dirtman, and Where is Spacebar, as well as everyone else you see here.